Hi, my name is Harper Mitchell. I'm 29 years old, and I've spent the last 8 years serving in the U.S. Army. I've driven convoys through war zones. I've been in ambushes. I've carried wounded brothers and sisters through the dust and fire. But the moment that nearly broke me was at my sister's wedding rehearsal. "You can't wear white," she said. "You're not pure." That night, something inside me cracked. So the next morning, I walked into the bridal suite. Not in blush pink chiffon, but in full dress uniform. What happened after that? Tears, silence, a father's salute. It changed everything. Before I tell you how that day unfolded, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever had to fight for the right to be yourself, even in your own family. I grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut. You know, the kind of town with white picket fences, PTA moms, and perfect report cards. And in our house, there were 2 Mitchell sisters. There was Madison, 3 years older, blonde, blue-eyed, flawless. She won her first pageant at 7, played violin, made straight A's, and said please and thank you without ever being told. Then there was me, Harper. Wild curls, stubborn as hell. I climbed trees in dresses, brought frogs into the kitchen, and once asked our priest why girls couldn't lead communion. Guess how well that went over? Every school year, my report cards came back the same. Bright, but talks back. Challenges authority. Needs to be more like her sister. That line, "Why can't you be more like Madison?" It echoed through my entire childhood like background noise. By the time I was 13, Madison had just been crowned Miss Teen Fairfield. My parents glowed. And me, I just tried not to disappear. The real fracture came during my senior year, while everyone else was freaking out about college apps. I walked into a recruitment office, signed my name, and enlisted in the U.S. Army. I told my family over dinner. My mom dropped her fork. My dad knocked over his water. But it was Madison who looked me in the eye and said, "You're throwing your life away." I wish I could say that moment brought us closer. But the truth? It was the beginning of 10 years of silence, judgment, and distance. 10 years, 3 deployments, a dozen family holidays filled with stiff hugs and polite small talk. Then, out of nowhere, a wedding invitation. Madison was getting married, and not only that, she asked me to be her maid of honor. There was even a handwritten note, "Let's start fresh. I want you beside me." I stared at it for hours. Was this real? A chance to finally reconnect? So I said yes. Took leave, booked the flight, even bought a navy blue dress for the engagement dinner. Classy, modest, couldn't possibly offend anyone. But from the moment I arrived, it felt like I'd walked into a country club version of Mean Girls. Her bridesmaids, sorority types with perfect highlights, matching handbags, and backhanded compliments. "You must be the Army sister. Thank you for your service." "Wow, you actually got leave for this? That's so lucky." Then came the fitting. Blush pink dresses, off-the-shoulder chiffon. I changed, stepped out, and Madison's face dropped. "We'll need to cover those scars," she said, pointing to my shoulder. "Maybe long gloves or a shawl." Then she added, "And could you stand softer? You look so military." I bit my tongue, told myself, this is her day, don't make it about you. So I wore the extensions, practiced my smile, nodded politely while she micromanaged napkin colors like lives depended on it. But the final straw came the night before the wedding. At the rehearsal dinner planning, I told Madison I'd wear my cream-colored dress. She froze. "You can't wear white to anything," I laughed. "It's not white, it's a crew." Her voice dropped. "You're not pure, Harper." I stood there stunned, like she'd slapped me with a silk glove. And our mother? She just kept writing place cards, didn't say a word. In that moment, I realized it didn't matter how many years I'd served, how many lives I'd saved. To them, I was still the problem child. That night, I couldn't sleep. Madison's words, "You're not pure," kept echoing like shrapnel in my chest. So I did something I hadn't done all week. I opened the second garment bag I'd packed. just in case. Inside was my army dress uniform, clean, pressed, decorated with every ribbon and medal I'd earned, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, 8 years of grit, sacrifice, and silent strength stitched into every thread. I ran my fingers along the fabric. This wasn't just a uniform. It was a mirror, the first reflection of me that ever felt real. The next morning, wedding day, I showed up at 7 a.m. sharp, as instructed, garment bag in hand. In the bridal suite, everything was chaos and contour palettes. Madison beamed. "You came," she whispered, hugging me. I sat, got my hair curled, let a stranger contour me into someone unrecognizable. But when it came time to put on the dress, I excused myself, slipped into the bathroom, and changed, not into blush pink, but dark navy, with brass buttons and a chest full of metal. When I stepped back into the room, silence fell like a dropped crystal glass. 5 bridesmaids, 1 bride, all staring. Madison's champagne flute froze mid-air. "Are you serious?" she whispered. "I am," I replied, hands behind my back. "Parade restaurant. Go change. Now." "I won't," I said, calm, steady, trained. The other bridesmaids shifted awkwardly. Only Jillian, Ryan's sister, spoke. "It's her wedding, Harper. Don't be selfish." Before I could answer, the door opened. Our mom walked in. She gasped when she saw me. "Harper, what are you doing?" I straightened. "Showing up, as myself." Then Dad walked in, paused, took in the ribbons, the medals, and whispered, "Bronze Star?" "Kandahar," I nodded. He touched the medal like it was holy, and for the first time in my life, he looked at me with pride. Madison broke. "This is my day," she cried. "Everything was supposed to be perfect." And then came the ultimatum. "Change, or you're out of the wedding party." I looked at her, my sister, the girl who once adjusted a tiara on my head, and said gently, "I love you, but I won't hide who I am. Not anymore." She didn't say another word, just turned away, and appointed Jillian her new maid of honor. I folded the pink dress, set it down, and walked out of the suite, not as Madison's shadow, but as Staff Sergeant Harper Mitchell. I locked the bathroom door behind me, my hands trembling slightly, not with fear. I'd faced far worse, but with clarity. I hung the bridesmaid dress back on its hanger and unzipped my second garment bag. Inside was my Army service uniform, dark blue jacket, rank insignia, Bronze Star, Purple Heart, every ribbon, every badge, earned with sweat, pain, and moments that still woke me up at night. As I buttoned the jacket and smoothed the fabric, I felt my breath steady. My heart quieted. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I wasn't here to sabotage Madison's wedding. I just couldn't pretend anymore. The extensions came out. The heavy makeup wiped away. I tied my real hair back in a clean bun and looked at myself in the mirror. There she was, Staff Sergeant Harper Mitchell, soldier, leader, sister, survivor. I didn't need to wear blush pink to fit in. I didn't need to hide my scars to deserve respect. I didn't need to shrink myself for a place at a table that never made room for me. I stepped out of the bathroom in full uniform. The bridal suite fell silent. Madison froze, her champagne glass mid-air. The other bridesmaids looked away, suddenly obsessed with their phones or clutch purses. "What are you wearing?" Madison finally whispered, her voice tight with shock. I stood tall. "The truth," she blinked. "This is not the time for one of your stunts, Harper. You're making this about you." I shook my head, calm and steady. "No, I'm not. I'm just done making myself smaller so you can feel bigger." Madison's face turned red. "Either you go change, or you're out of the wedding party." I paused, looked her in the eyes. "I love you, and I showed up for you, but I won't erase who I am to fit into someone else's version of perfection." Silence, and then my dad stepped forward. He looked at me, then at the medals on my chest. He touched one gently. "This is for valor," he said almost to himself. Then louder, "Your daughter served her country. That uniform deserves more respect than any dress ever could." And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I felt seen. The ceremony went on without me in the lineup. I sat in the third pew, still in uniform, still Harper, and watched my sister walk down the aisle. Her smile had a flicker of hesitation when she passed me, but she didn't look away. When the vows were said and cheers erupted, I clapped too, not just for her love story, but for my own, for finally choosing myself. At the reception, I kept to the sidelines, until a man in a gray suit approached me. "Staff Sergeant," he said, extending his hand with a practiced salute. "Colonel William Hayes, retired, Ryan's uncle." I stood, saluted back. "I saw the Bronze Star," he said, eyes kind and sharp. "Kandahar?" "Yes, sir. Isanzibpal." He nodded. "I'd be honored if you sat at our table." For the first time all day, I smiled without effort. "I'd be honored, sir." We talked over dinner like comrades, not strangers. His wife joined us, warm and curious. She said softly, "Sometimes family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who sees your worth." Across the ballroom, Madison watched me with unreadable eyes. Then she crossed the floor. "Harper," she said, voice calm but taut, "can we talk? Just us." She led me back to the bridal suite, the same place our fight had started. She closed the door and turned to me, not as a bride, but as a sister. "You embarrassed me," she said, "but you also made me think." I stayed quiet. She sat on the edge of a velvet chair and whispered, "You have no idea how scared I was when you enlisted. Every deployment, every silence, I thought we'd lose you." I blinked. That wasn't what I expected. "I thought you hated me for joining." She shook her head. "I didn't hate you. I just couldn't understand you. You were brave in ways I wasn't." I sat across from her. "And I thought you looked down on me because I wasn't polished, or perfect, or Princeton." "I did. At first," she admitted, eyes wet. "But now, I'm proud of you, for standing up, for yourself, for others. I just wish I had sooner." A beat passed. Then she smiled through her tears. "Still mad at me?" I smiled back. "Only if you make me wear pink again." She laughed, full and real. When we returned to the ballroom, my father stood for a toast. "To Madison, our beautiful bride, and to Harper, who taught us that courage isn't about medals. It's about standing tall in the face of judgment, even from your own family." The room applauded. I stood still. This was the acceptance I hadn't dared to hope for. Have you ever had to choose between being accepted and being true to yourself? Tell your story in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories about courage, identity, and finding your place, no matter where life takes you.